Okay, we're live.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It is 7 o'clock on October 12th, 2020. This is the regular meeting of the Silverton Board of Trustees, and I call this meeting to order. Trustee Barella didn't mention that she would be a bit late to this meeting, so let's get started with roll call with that note that she's expected shortly.
Trustee Harper?
Present.
Trustee Weigert?
Here.
Trustee Bierma?
Here.
Trustee Lashley?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
Here.
Mayor Furman?
Here. Administrator Ryder, would you like to lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Thank you. Any revisions to tonight's agenda?
I have two, Mr. Mayor, if you please.
Yes, please.
The first one is I'd like to note that in 9C, the consideration to approve the temporary sign ordinance is a first reading. Should it be approved tonight, there will be a second reading on October 26th. I would also like to add a presentation from Sarah Mordecai from the Silverton Family Learning Center under the presentation section, if it pleases the board.
Sounds good to me. Everybody else think that sounds good as well? Very good.
And Lisa Branner, Sarah Mordecai is a participant, so if we could promote her at the appropriate time to a panelist, she'll be giving the presentation.
Will do.
All right. This time, if there aren't any other staff or board revisions to the agenda, we'll move to public comment. Public comment's limited to 3 minutes each. On Zoom, please click on the bottom of your screen to raise your hand, and we will allow you to speak. I do not see anyone raising their hand at this time. So we will move on to Sarah Mordecai presenting on behalf of the Silverton Family Learning Center. All right, Sarah, you're now a panelist. If you unmute, the floor is yours.
Hi there. Thank you guys for letting me take a few minutes of your time. I just kind of wrote something up. It was brought to my attention that there's been some concerns voiced just about child care in the community. And I mean, obviously I've known it's an issue, but like today I felt like it kind of came to a head, and I wanted to give you guys an update and an opportunity to ask me questions. And I was just going to start with a little bit of a background for anyone who doesn't know me. I am Sarah Mordecai, and I serve as the director of Silverton Family Learning Center. I've worked in the field of early childhood for 19 years in leadership, classroom teaching, and as a mentor teacher at the University of Arizona. I'm thrilled to be here in Silverton, following my life's work and serving Silverton's children in their most formative years. Silverton is a standalone nonprofit that has an independent and highly functioning board of directors. We work in close collaboration with the public school, and I'm really thankful for their leadership and unwavering support, especially during these difficult times. So just to go back before COVID, our regular hours had always been Monday through Friday from 8 to 4. And in mid-March, we closed the preschool and really followed that same procedures that the big school were doing. We just were like, we're just all going to be on the same page and work together through this pandemic and learning about what it looked like. During that time, we offered families weekly activity bags for their children. I delivered weekly food packages to most of our families. We were able to write grants for we gave 47 families approximately. One package was all personal care items for their family, and another second package was household cleaning items. We were able to participate and offer through the COVID Relief Fund $25,000 contribution to the rent and utilities assistance. We reopened in June for summer programming. And at the time, as you know, this has been kind of rapidly changing, but there was a strict cohort requirement in early childhood at that time, or childcare. And so we had 3 cohorts that were coming 2 days each for 4 hours just during that period. And then in the fall, we opened Monday through Thursday from 8 to 2. And let's see, next week we will reopen Monday through Thursday from 8 to 4. So going back to those normal hours, but maintaining Fridays as like a deep clean and sort of a disinfection day. We have 15 children enrolled across programming. I think that I believe we're currently connected to all families in Silverton, children 12 months or older. There are a couple of infants that aren't attending the program right now that are new to our new citizens. We have had a conservative approach to reopening the program, and that has been in collaboration with, Becky Joyce, our public health director, sits on our board of directors, but also on a COVID committee, helping us sort of navigate through. Kim White is also on that, and a couple of board members that help me make these decisions. Is not lost on us, the board or myself, the vital role that childcare plays in economic strength and viability of businesses and families. And so let's see. So the conservative approach really is based in the reality that children, of that age don't have the capacity to social distance or wear masks properly. And so all of these guidelines and protocols are in place. Trying to meet those with very young children can be challenging. And they are conduits for spreading germs. I mean, in normal years, we do have children who are sick, and that's just how it goes. And so we expect that with guidelines for exclusion, that might kind of stop and throughout the winter months, depending on how healthy everyone stays and just with normal illnesses. Let's see. And I've been referring to the letter that I saw today, so I just have some bullet points. Staffing issues are complex. As many of you are business owners in town, I think that you can relate to that reality. And in this field, it's not just Silverton, it's this field in general. It's hard to find people that want to stay committed to this work and be with children all day. It takes special interest. And we do need to beef up our staffing right now to maintain some of these procedures and protocols that are in place. We do actually pay above minimum wage and are pretty competitive in relation to the surrounding communities. So I do feel good about that, but turnover is still high. And we have hired some new people, so we're working towards that. And I just wanted to say that I do appreciate the concern and willingness to offer support on behalf of Mrs. Watson. I think Darlene was coming from a place of trying to find solutions to meet the needs of our community. I was just really surprised because no one has reached out to me directly. And so if I have, not been present in a way that makes me approachable, I apologize. And I want to be available to collaborate as we work through, the needs of the community. And And just that I really kind of wanted to say too, that this request was not submitted on behalf of SFLC, but I am totally willing to talk about, you know, how we can come to some meet needs. I just think that might take a bit of time to come with those plans. Let's see. I guess that's really all I have. I mean, does anyone have any questions for me or thoughts on that?
I'd just like to thank you for coming in tonight to clarify, and for context for those watching, there was a letter sent by a citizen asking the town and county and business owners to support additional childcare options in Silverton. And so that's what this relates to. Trustee Barella?
Yes, thank you. I did see Darlene's letter, and I had absolutely no idea why you would be giving a presentation this evening, and it wasn't on our agenda, Sarah. What are you actually asking for, Sarah?
I'm not asking for anything. I just felt like there was a disconnect between me as sort of the director of that program, and really I think the person who's in closest contact with our families and students. I just wanted to clarify to you that I am open to collaborating. I don't have any request. I just thought, I knew you guys all got that letter, and I just wanted to present like this, you know, where SFLC is at, that we're working towards getting back to our normal schedule. Just give you guys an update because I felt a little disconnected.
All right, thank you. That makes more sense now. Thank you.
Trustee Harper?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Sarah, thank you for all you do, and thanks for the update. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Awesome. Well,
All
I
right.
appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening. And if you do, just know I am totally available to answer any questions or even just throw ideas at me or anything. I want to be available to the community in that way. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, have a wonderful rest of the night. Moving on to our consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions or comments, or do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda? Trustee Lashley?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. Kelly, roll call, please.
Trustee Barilla,
Yes.
Trustee Harper,
Yes.
Trustee Wager,
Yes.
Trustee Birma,
Yes.
Trustee Lashley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Thank you very much. Now moving to staff reports, I will kick it over to Administrator Ryder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just highlight a few things and then open it up for any questions or comments. Starting with the town administrator, town clerk staff report. For me, I've added, per our discussions, more detail on meetings attended and upcoming meetings. I'd like to just make a note of another upcoming meeting just scheduled for Wednesday afternoon. It looks like we're attempting to get a real estate / construction industry forum together. So Michelle Tamoya, who's a builder in town, and Deanne Gallegos with the chamber and myself are going to get together initially just to start putting a list of names together of who we'd like to be a part of that forum. But it's really, we'll start out just general discussion. What are the challenges? What can we do to help promote the industry, promote local building and buying, lean on each other in that industry, because we see it as an economy that's going to continue to grow here in the next several years in Silverton, and want to make sure that that group is somewhat organized and utilizing each other, and we'll see where the ideas take us. But one of the main goals is to work together, try not to cannibalize, and most importantly, try to secure as much local business in those industries as we can, as kind of our initial goals of talking. So that's another one we'll be doing. Exciting that we're going to once again, under a different GoCo grant program on October 16th. So that's this Friday, submitting for Columbine Park again. It's about a $525,000 project, similar to what we proposed last year, which would be a complete completion of the tear down of Old Town Hall, site cleanup, and then the new building that'll house a visitor center, restrooms, much needed public restrooms, a concession area to sell the school kids' farm products, and then a small storage area. But we're excited because this is one we wanted to do last year. GoCo turned us down. The new program does not require a cash match, only in kind. We have more than enough in-kind work through our Public Works Department in tearing down and site preparation to make that match. There may be a small cash match, but not anywhere near the $42,000 we were matching in cash last year. So that's good news. There's no time limit on when we can spend the funds. So this is going to be a tricky one. If we get it, snow allowing, we'll start in the spring, perhaps even this fall. Another good part of this grant is we'll know by November 16th whether we got it or not, whereas the old program had us waiting until March of the following year. So it made construction and starting very tricky. If we're awarded in the middle of November and weather's holding, we may do some of the demolition work yet this fall to be prepared for spring. So all in all, we're pretty excited about this one. It's our second application, so we'll get credit for applying the first time. GoCo is so competitive that oftentimes, you've got to submit 2 or 3 times before you even get into the upper tier of consideration. So this will be our second one that works in our favor. So we're excited about that. I should know in the next couple of days if the San Juan Development Association Ready Grant, which is through DOLA, that's an $85,000 grant that we're going to use to staff with an executive director the San Juan Development Association position that's open right now. So we'll know about that hopefully within the next couple of days. The 2021 audit is complete without issue. On the next board meeting, October 26th, the partner on that account will be coming in to present the audit. I'm still checking if we need to officially approve or adopt or accept that audit, but there may be a technical approval. But at any rate, the partner will be on Zoom next week to give the board a presentation of the 2019 audit. Going through, I suppose it's worth noting that John Seitz also got his elk. He has made note of meat in the freezer in his staff report. So in case anybody was wondering what that meant, that's what it means. Todd Bowe was working on a 2021 Kendall Ski Area operation plan. Our intention now is to open on somewhat of a limited basis. We feel good about ticket sales. We feel good about opening normal day skiing hours. We do not think we're going to be able to open the lodge at this point just for daytime use. Probably not going to be able to do night skiing just because of the higher demand on inside facilities, being that it's cold. We're going to see about that, but we're bumping this thing up against COVID restrictions and going to do the best we can. So right now we think we'll have normal daytime hours, probably not night skiing or any special events. Just because of COVID restrictions. But we're also waiting here any day now. We're expecting the ski industry to come out with additional, more specified guidance that we can take a look at and see what we can and cannot adapt to run the ski area safely. Let's see, we mentioned the GoCo. I think you'll see in the planning department, Director Adair's report, busy, busy, busy. Lots of people coming in right now to kick tires and in some cases moving forward, but it's just a continued pipeline of activity and action in the planning group, that's indicative of what's going on in town and the county. There's just still a lot of building, hence our kind of industry forum for the construction and real estate industry, but we're not seeing a slowdown as of yet. And I think with that, I can open it up to any specific questions or other comments the board may have.
All quiet. All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to committee reports. Mayor Pro Tem?
I can go for Kendall. I think we made a note of this last week, but just to reiterate, we've returned to every 2 weeks on Tuesdays from 3 to 5 is our meeting schedule. Last week we met our main objective was to review a really extensive, like 18-page document that Sue Morris has completed on behalf of the committee, and then all of the committee members are reading and reviewing and offering inputs and revisions. And that document, we're calling it the planning guidelines. It's really a summary and synthesis of the work and the minutes. So the work output and discussions that are documented in the minutes, prepared for the committee. And then I'm really looking forward to sharing those with all of the trustees. So I think Lisa Branner and John Ryder, we're going to get together and think about when the right time to include that really long 18-page document in our packet is. But we'll get to see it, I think, in the next month or so. And the committee hasn't finished reviewing it yet either. So that's primarily the Kendall committee update.
Thank you. Trustee Lashley?
Yeah, thank you. I just had one concern from a citizen that they had brought up regarding the Kendall Mountain Committee. And they had just brought up that they're often at work when the Kendall meetings are happening, because they usually happen during the day, and asked if there was any possibility of having those meetings recorded in the same way that we do YouTube recordings for our meetings here, because they were interested in being engaged but didn't feel that their current schedule allowed them to participate. And I told them I would pass that along.
Thanks. I took a note, and we can bring that up with the whole committee.
Trustee Barella and then Trustee Harper.
I was also asked a very similar question. Where is the last meeting's availability for Zoom? Was it recorded or was it not?
So we haven't been recording. There was one meeting in the last year and a half or so that was recorded, and I think that's because Lisa was back home and being faced with a hurricane. But other than that, we haven't recorded these meetings, I guess because they started in person and we were taking minutes. And at this point, I guess maybe Lisa can speak to it. I know it's a time consideration for staff and just not typical of committee meetings to be recorded. But it can certainly be brought up to the committee and we can discuss it. And I hear that there's some interest in having them recorded, so we could proceed from there. I guess it falls under, like all committee meetings. But I mean, I don't know if finance is recording their committee meetings or.
Yeah, right now it would be the exception, not the norm, to record the meeting. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Administrator Ryder.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and this is after consultation with the town attorney, committee meetings are not required to be recorded. So none of them are. Any of our standing committees are recorded. They are shown live on Zoom. There are minutes posted, of course. But at this time, we're not recording any committee meetings. And yes, there would be an administrative layer, to recording, posting, etc., if we chose to go that route.
Trustee Harper.
But I love that there's a lot of interest in seeing it. So that's great. That's really good news. And it would be nice to have lots of participants. Sounds great.
Trustee Harper, did you have a question?
I did, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I wanted to piggyback off Trustee Lashley and Trustee Barilla. I requested 2 meetings ago to have dates and times for these meetings be posted and sent out on an email blast to everyone, and that has not happened. I have not been able, I've written this down, but if I get an email blast, I know that it will pop up on my screen and I can tune in myself no matter what I'm doing. I have been approached by numerous folks throughout the community that have said the same thing. They would like to have more communication with regards to dates and times of these meetings, since this is a council really determining the future of Kendall Mountain and where that direction's going. So I'm going to request again formally, can we get that sent out on an email blast to everyone? I don't know how we do it. I don't care how we do it, but I would sure love to get that sent out. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Lisa, in that order.
I was actually just going to say, I think Lisa spoke to an email platform that she was working on last week. So maybe that's why you're here, Lisa.
Yeah, if I may speak on this issue, I'd like to remind the trustees that I'm a department of one, and there are a number of different things on my priority list. I'm taking note when these requests are made, but there is a limit to the number of hours that I can work in a given week. And John Ryder and I have spoken about what needs to be prioritized and things that need to not be lost sight of. And I'd like to assure you all that these concerns have been heard. And right now, I simply do not have the bandwidth to add additional email notifications and other work like that to my workload. And I would like to remind everybody that meetings for all of the Kendall meetings, meeting minutes are online. They're all posted to the town website as soon as they're approved by the committee. And we are working hard to be transparent. And if you would like all committee meetings to be posted similarly, notified similarly, and videoed similarly, you're talking about quite a time commitment of town staff. So I would just like to make sure you're all aware of the additional burden you'll be placing on staff with that request, and that we will be working to put these systems in place as time permits.
Trustee Harper, and then I had my hand up, and then Trustee Lashley.
You can go first if you'd like.
No, you go ahead, please.
Oh, I just, Lisa, this is not directed at you. You're doing a fantastic job. I think I can speak for everyone and say that we love what you're doing. You're doing fantastic. This is just what's been brought to my attention, and I'm passing it along to you and everybody else here. I personally would like to be a part of these. I've been on several of these meetings and heard some things that I'd love to comment on, and I think I did during our work session, but this in no way, shape, or form is a reflection on you. I'm just passing along this information, and I want that to be noted. So please, you're doing a great job, Lisa. Thank you so much. This isn't about you.
Well, I appreciate that. I also appreciate that citizens want to be involved and informed. And I will say this group is working hard toward that. And I would just ask you to take staffing considerations into account and the expectations that you have of what a single person department can do in this situation. So thank you.
And I'd like to expand the topic a little bit. I think when this first came up, we talked about a broader listserv that we could email. Any citizen can email Kelly to get on the town listserv to receive the town notices, because I'd actually requested that I receive notices for all committee meetings and that all trustees receive notices of all committee meetings. So if we're all on the town listserv, that could be by emailing Kelly's town email and making that request. That could be a step in the right direction towards everyone getting informed. Trustee Lashley?
Yeah, just kind of echo what Trustee Harper said. It's really just an issue that was brought to my attention, and I felt that it was probably a good idea to bring it up to the board. I think that for most of our committee meetings, I haven't had any requests from the public for publishing or recording those meetings on YouTube. But it does sound like we've had a couple maybe for the Kendall Rec, and considering the considering kind of the sensitive nature of the topic and our attempts to be as transparent as possible and trying to engage community members for participation, it might be worth a discussion with the committee to see if that's something that they're interested in. I think also there's been, at least from the trustees, a good amount of interest in having all of our committee meetings at least kind of publicly noticed, and in a way that at least we get an email and we kind of know when these meetings are happening and are able to attend if possible. Sometimes even if you're not a member of these committees, it's nice to listen in and see kind of what everybody's doing.
Trustee Barella?
We do have to be very careful. All of our committee meetings that are legitimately in the code book have to be noticed because of the number of people showing up. If you have 2 or more people at any sort of meeting together that are on this board, and you are trying to make substantive changes and or even discussing them, all those meetings have to be noticed. So that is part of the open records and the sunshine laws and everything else. So our committee meetings are noticed. So whether or not you're on an email list, if you are not on the committee, then I think it's only a listen only, that you'd only be allowed to listen, because we have to be careful how many people we put in a room and what discussions we have. That is the overreaching that everybody should know about Colorado with the sunshine law. So noticing it is one thing. All of our meetings are noticed that involve committees. But I don't know who else is on that board with you, Sally, that is a trustee.
Nobody.
Okay, so then that's a different situation. You don't have to worry about violating the sunshine law. So this is for a larger group of people wanting to be able to go back and listen to the meetings and see the meetings rather than just reading the minutes to know what was discussed, is the way it was brought to me. And I've had interest in it, but I work all the time. So we have a lot of people that are in that same kind of position. So it is about being transparent, and it's a little different in that situation because we don't have the trustees all together like we do in our regular committee meetings. So I don't know if Mr. Ryder or if Mr. Kosnick needs to be brought in, and they can have a little more of a discussion about how this needs to move forward. So thank you.
I'd just like to jump to the defense of the Kendall Mountain Committee a little bit. I think that they've taken extraordinary measures to communicate. I'd like to contrast that with the economic recovery meeting, which I advocated for being open to the public, and it is not. And so I think that if we're going to lean deeply into doing something a certain way, it should apply across the board equally. Trustee Harper, and then Lisa.
Well, sir, I wanted to beg your pardon, but those meetings, in fact, our next meeting is open to the public.
One a month is.
Yes.
But not all. Whereas all Kendall meetings are open to the public. And they're also all during the daytime.
And I think they should be posted.
Yeah.
They should be greatly blasted, because this is a topic that is very concerning to our community. And I think that's why Trustee Lashley, Trustee Barella, and I'm assuming other trustees have been approached about this. This is a tough topic for us as a community at the moment, and I think people are interested. In fact, I know they're interested and they want more information. And that's all.
Absolutely.
That's all I was requesting.
I totally agree, and I think that they should be public and as accessible as possible. And I was just saying this committee seems to be taking a lot of heat, whereas there are other committees that are doing less than that committee is to try and be open.
And I would like to further say that I think this committee and the topic that they're covering is extremely important to a lot of people here in town. And I think that's how it was presented to me. That's how I personally feel, and I believe that's how other folks feel as well. And
Thank you.
I
agree.
think that is the difference between this committee as opposed to other committees that we sit on.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. And thank you.
I saw a couple
Lisa.
other hands.
Thank you, Trustee Barney. Thank you.
Lisa first.
If I may, I'd just like to let the trustees know that our procedures around all committee meetings were run by Trustee Koznick. So as far as
Attorney.
Kendall Committee or any of our other, thank you, Attorney Koznick, Kendall Committee or any of our other committee meetings that we are following the procedures that Attorney Koznick has approved. So we're inside the bounds. I understand the desire to make things as public as possible and as transparent as possible, especially on topics of interest. But I just wanted to let you know that Administrator Ryder and I have spoken with Attorney Koznick about that question.
And it seems like an appropriate time to also remind everyone that it's an advisory committee and that it's not a decision-making committee. And before any decisions can be made, that committee will have to present to the trustees for discussion and consideration. So that, and not taking away from how important the public nature of all that communication is and the committees being open is, just a reminder that that committee isn't making any decisions.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar too. And also, that's why I try to be really consistent with updates weekly and bi-weekly to this board. So the board can kind of follow along, even if you can't attend all the meetings. I try to be pretty clear and open about the general topic of what we talked about. And then if it piques your interest or excitement, then it's really easy to go find the minutes and explore that topic further. So this one was regarding the planning guidelines. And I understand as a, busy working person, it's really hard to attend any, if not all, committee meetings because they seem to happen mostly at challenging times. So I know that the Kendall Committee does pique a lot of interest, and that's so exciting because it's such a fun committee meeting to attend. And Parks and Rec is great too. If anyone wants to come to that, I want to put a plug for that one in. And I also think, a lot of meetings happen at inconvenient times, and that is a bummer. And 3 to 5, I think we've bounced around a little bit, but it's also a hard one for me to make as well. I sympathize with that person.
All right, I'll jump in. The master plan committee. Oh, sorry, Trustee Harper, please go ahead.
No, and I just wanted to say, I think everyone's doing a great job. And Mayor Furman, to touch on your point, you said that this is quote unquote an advisory committee. And I believe that's why our fellow friends and neighbors around town are so passionate about this, because this is an advisory committee and they want to feel like they're a part of the process. And that's why I'm just once again reiterating what I had said 2 meetings ago and what folks have come into my office and the hotel and asked about. So I'm just, again, passing that information along. So thank you. And I truly do believe everyone's doing a good job. So thank you.
Tuesdays, 3 to 5.
And I think
Thank
an
you.
email blast would be fantastic.
The master plan committee had a meeting on October 29th at 6 o'clock. As the exception, this meeting, as well as the last master plan committee meeting, were recorded and posted to YouTube. They were both presentations by DOLA. The first was the State Demography Office presentation. The second was a comprehensive 101 plan training, talking about the resources the state has available for the town of Silverton in pursuing updates to the master plan. And both were incredibly informative and helpful, and both are available on the town's YouTube page for anyone who would like to go watch. Although that meeting was at 6 o'clock, we didn't have anyone participate, which was a little disappointing because I thought that one was a really information-filled presentation. So hopefully people will take the time to watch that one. And that's all I have on committee updates. Anyone else? All right. Trustee reports. We had an exciting 2 weeks of state representatives coming to Silverton. Commissioner McKay invited Attorney General Phil Weiser to Silverton last week, and Senator Bennett this morning and today to Silverton, and maybe Administrator Ryder or Trustee Lashley, who are at both of those get-togethers, would like to provide a quick overview of what they thought.
You want to go, Trustee Lashley, or you want me to go first?
I don't know. What would you like to do, John? You want to go first and I'll go second, or you want to take one and I'll take the other?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I thought the Attorney General meeting last Sunday was very interesting. There was, I don't know, maybe a dozen people there that showed up. You know, a lot of the talk was centered around, you know, Silverton, San Juan County being a very limited resource, both human and financial, you know, to deal with just the onslaught of tourism we saw this summer, and use of the backcountry and continued degradation of the backcountry, you know, a shortage of resources to put meaningfully toward education and enforcement of rules on the books today. You know, how we expressed pretty clearly we don't think it's going to slow down. And Trustee Lashley, you know, pointed out budget cuts to the BLM, that we used to get some enforcement help from them in years past that we don't get anymore. You know, we don't have the financial or human resources to put forth, you know, significant educational programs and tools to help folks getting out here for the first time, or who may have visited for years and just don't know how important it is to be responsible to our environment and to use the public lands. That was a pretty big topic. Yes, Senator Bennett continues to work on a number of initiatives to try to get funding into local governments. You know, as a result of COVID, he's been frustrated with some of the efforts to date that it hasn't trickled down, but we'll continue to help out. Those are the big things I took. Just, you know, more that we need to be heard. We can't do this alone. And, you know, what resources at both the state and federal level, you know, could be made available to us. Administrator Tukey, you know, spoke about some of the CARES Act money funneling down that really didn't amount to anything meaningful to Silverton or San Juan County. There's a little bit there. It's hard to get. It's hard to find expenses that qualify. So it hasn't been, it was a small amount to begin with, and it's proving to be difficult to use under the parameters they've set forth. So we expressed that to the senator. And what else, Trustee Lashley? There was probably some other topics. Those are the ones I remember as being kind of the main ones.
Yeah, sure. The Attorney General was concerned a little bit with, you know, legal issues statewide, incarceration rates, a little bit of like the nonviolent drug crime stuff. He was very concerned with the statistics regarding schools and kind of how schools play a role in developing young people and keeping them as productive members of society versus potentially ending up in incarcerated or having problems with the law. We have really low numbers of youth crime specifically, and so he was very interested to hear about our school's experience and how to take lessons from Silverton to translate to other parts of the state, maybe, or if there were some lessons or information that he could glean and the school may expect to see somebody from his office to come speak to them at some point, just because he seemed very impressed with the expeditionary learning in the school that we have, which is great. The only other thing that I can really think of, and Mayor Administrator Ryder, if you guys have anything else to contribute, was we just echoed how important it is to have the support of our elected officials at the higher levels of government at the state and the federal level regarding the EPA Superfund and some of these public lands issues, and just how great it is to have an advocate for our community with a good line of communication that we feel like if we contact them, that they can kind of help amplify our voice a little bit regarding some of these issues that otherwise might get drowned out.
Thank you. I thought those were pretty good representative summaries. I don't have anything to add on top of that.
This is me. I'm having a little bit of a connection issue again. I'm going to stay without video for a while.
All right, thank you. The only other item that I have to note under trustee reports is that we all had a budget work session last Monday evening where Administrator Ryder presented the draft 2021 budget that we're going to discuss shortly. And I thought that was a very productive session, and the budget's looking pretty solid. So I think that's great. Any other trustee reports before we move along? All right. Continued business. So this is discussion regarding the continuation of ordinance 2020-04 regarding the extended premises that we've been calling the bump outs. Administrator Ryder, what do you think? Hold on for another 2 weeks until the next meeting, or?
Unfortunately, I'm not seeing any change in the weather pattern, so that's not so good for moisture. But yeah, I don't see any reason that staff sees that we would discontinue it. I think we were kind of targeting the end of October as maybe a hard date, but I drive down Main Street, every day, and they're still being used. I don't know if the restaurateurs are tired out by this time. But yeah, I don't see a reason to discontinue it at this time and wait another 2 weeks.
Trustees, any discussion? Great. Oh, sorry. Trustee Bierma.
I was just going to say I'm good waiting 2 weeks. That sounds great to me.
All right. Thank you, Administrator Ryder. All right, moving along to new business. Approval and adoption of.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry, had his hand up. Sorry, Mayor.
No, please.
No. Thank you, sir. Or sirs, plural. Yeah, I'm all for leaving our bump outs up for 2 weeks, at least till the end of October, if not a little further. I think they're still providing the capacity needed for the restaurants and coffee shop to get to that certain level. And then I wanted to jump back really quick and just thank yourself, Mr. Mayor, Trustee Lashley, and Administrator Ryder for representing our town this morning. That's big time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. 2021 draft budget. Administrator Ryder, back to you.
Okay, this is really just an administrative task for the board to consider approval of this draft budget. Not a whole lot has changed since you saw it last Monday. We've taken all of your comments under advisement. I'd like to echo the mayor's thoughts. I thought that was a terrific work session, and kudos to all of you for great questions, great discussion. It's given us a lot to think about that we are now researching and plugging into the next draft. I will say this one changed a little bit to the better for a couple of formula errors that I found, basically dealing with the administrative fee. Mayor Pro Tem and I were going over it last week and caught a couple of just formula busts that we fixed in the administrative fee section. So it hasn't changed much. It's changed overall a little to the better, just because of the formulas. What I'd like to do, I don't know if you have any other questions. This looks pretty much exactly similar to what you looked at the work session. We are working through any number of issues that were brought up in that work session. We have began to get some funding requests. One, the daycare letter you saw about could we financially support some kind of daycare effort, whether it's the Silverton Learning Center or something else. The film office has made a request for potential funding of their office. So we'll start to look at those numbers and plug those in. We saw the good news on sales tax. That's obviously going to have an impact. We collected $188,000 for the month of August. So not only did that upgrade from, I think, we had, I think, 196,000. We had 188 in the budget, or in the projection for 2020. That'll affect the numbers we collect in November as well. We're going to bump those up for collections in September. We didn't see much of a slowdown in September, so those could be dramatically better. So you'll see those type of changes and start looking at some of the cost requests, the funding requests for our partner organizations. And then, of course, all of the items we'll address the best we can from the work session commentary. But this budget that you're approving now is simply a draft, simply administrative task required by the state. What I'd like to do, and I've got to look at this, I don't want to over meeting you guys here as we head toward Thanksgiving, but time's getting short. And I would like to have at least one more work session with the budget combined with a town-county get together. The town-county is the primary purpose is to go over our shared services agreement and the costs that we share with the county, notably, planning department, building inspecting department, fire, sheriff, and EMS and ambulance corps. We have a good discussion with the commissioners present and Administrator Tookie. So I may try to combine that, have a hour or so work session on our budget. I'll try to keep it concise and clear, to focus on just what changed from the October 5th work session to the next presentation so that we're not rehashing the whole thing and taking up a lot of time. And then an hour or so on the county town portion of it. We do have to look at a Kendall work session, as you heard from that committee report. So I'll be throwing out some dates and times. Is it the preference, I guess I'll ask the group, to kind of load these up on a Monday with a regular meeting, or do you want to try to do them separately? I guess the preference, do you like more meetings that are shorter or less meetings that are longer? Because there's probably no way around not spending a little extra time on some of these critical items coming up. And just to let you know, October 26th, I don't think the Kendall committee will be quite ready. We probably won't be quite ready with the budget because I'd really like to present after or in tandem with the town and county thing. We typically do not have a second meeting in December, and by that time it's too late for the budget anyway. December 14th is our ultimate approval date for the budget, so we've got to have it done before then. So I guess I just throw it out, or would you rather I just throw out some dates and times that will work and see if it works into your schedules?
I'm open to whatever's best for the town.
Okay.
And staff. I did have one budget comment though, and this may be unprecedented, so I'm curious to get your feedback. How would you feel about asking the county administrator and commissioners for feedback on our budget, and in turn asking for the opportunity to provide feedback to theirs? Because it seems like there is quite a bit of not necessarily overlap. The overlap we already meet about, but there are some impacts of each budget on the two separate entities. And obviously none of the feedback that we'd get would be binding, but there's a lot of collective knowledge at the county level. And I'm not sure our feedback would be as valuable back to them, but it'd be fun to be a little more informed about the county budget as well.
I think that's great. I will ask the question.
Awesome. And since you're already planning a kind of a joint session, it seems like that might be easy to facilitate.
Yep. I'll do that. So that's really all I have on the budget, unless there's any other specifics or follow-up questions.
So would the motion tonight be to approve and adopt the 2021 draft budget subject to the discussion we had on this last
Yep.
Monday? And
Subject to the commentary of the October 5th work session and ongoing discussion and commentary.
So do I hear such a motion?
So
Mayor
moved.
Pro Tem? Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for the motion and Trustee Lashley for the second. Kelly, roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Wager,
Yes.
trustee Beerma,
Yes.
trustee Lashley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Wonderful. All right, moving on to consideration to approve resolution. Is this the first reading or is it C that's the first reading?
This is a resolution, so it doesn't need a first reading. You can consider this
Got it.
for approval tonight. Yep.
Consideration to approve resolution 2020 with respect to the Colorado Open Records Act requests. And I suppose before we move to discussion, I'd like to ask for a quick clarification from Administrator Ryder with respect to the communication we received from a citizen earlier today, noting a possible, I don't know, pricing discrepancy between what's proposed and what would be the standard.
Yeah, the fee in question was how much we can charge for a hourly fee beyond 1 hour for research and gathering records in a CORA Act. Such a fee is proposed in the state statutes. Attorney Kosnick and I discussed it. And there's some gray area in the fee structure and what you can and can't charge per the state statute. But given the small discrepancy, we had proposed $35 an hour, which was proposed as kind of a combination of Clerk Freese's time and my time in putting these CORAs together. And that's where the $35 came. There is a specified limit in state statute that Paul and I feel comfortable with. And so we would propose to go, it's basically $30 an hour adjusted for inflation. The current amount of that hourly rate is $33.58 per the state's guidelines. We're perfectly comfortable going with that and staying out of the gray area of whether or not additional fee could be charged, since the difference is so small. If an attorney Kosnick is drawn into a CORA request for whatever reason, we can recover those actual costs. So this is just for staff time in putting together a CORA request, filtering through the request and submitting it to the applicant. And we're fine with the $33.58, and we can make that change if the board approves. Otherwise, a little context for this. We just recently received a CORA request a couple of weeks ago. You know, the initial batch of documents, primarily emails, resulted in well over 800 emails. We truncated that to a time frame, but it still was in excess of 700 emails. A lot of them repetitive, a lot of them copies, as people pass the string along. But this resident actually asked us what the charge would be and would be more than willing to pay the charge. And as we looked into it, we realized that several years ago, a CORA policy had been put together by the previous town attorney, but never passed. So we did not have, and it's very specific in state statute, we've got to have a posted policy, we've got to have a posted fee schedule, et cetera, for CORA requests. So we've jumped on it. Paul Kosnick has reviewed and prepared this resolution and the associated policy. And so that's what we're asking you to approve. It is basically the type of documents, the time frame of producing the documents, kind of the general rules governing a KORA request, and a reasonable fee schedule that now complies with state statute with the adjustment to the hourly rate that allows us to recover just some of the costs in printing and producing and researching that we incur as a staff to produce these.
Thank you. Trustee Harper?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir. If we're just complying with the state, I don't see a problem with this. Anyone else?
Trustee Birma?
I'm just quick question out of curiosity about how many KORA requests do we get on, per year?
In my time, 4 or less. They come and go. We had 3 or 4 at once just recently, within the last couple of months, and others have indicated they were going to make one but didn't. So, maybe a half a dozen or less in a typical year. This year, I think 4 or 5.
Trustee Barella?
Have any of the other KORA requests been as enormous as the last one that you had with the 850 emails? Just
No.
Curious.
No.
So most of them are just more like the pages where you come in, you pay for the pages and so on like that. So it's only when they're large and overbearing, I guess.
Yeah. No, the ones I've been involved in, can usually be handled in an hour or less. There's no fee to the resident. A lot of what they're asking too is available on the website and other electronic means that are pretty easy to recover and produce for them. So it's not unless you get into, email volume and that type of thing that you'd really get into a big research effort.
So does something like that need to be clarified? I'm once again having connection issues, and I'm missing a page. It won't pull up on the Google Doc. I can't get it to reload. So I don't know if it was clarified. I can't remember reading it, whether or not if it was clarified in there or not, based on the type of request.
It is.
I remember the work product section, but I can't remember exactly what it said.
Yep, there's a section in the Colorado state statute about, if we have to produce something other than just word processing, so like emails, and we have to spend time sifting through. So, the one KORA request, asked for a certain name to be filtered. And so that name turned up a lot of names that weren't the resident's name, just, someone else has the same first name, basically. So it resulted in a lot of catches in our filtering exercise. Ones that were not that person were thrown out as not related to the subject matter. So that was unique in that it got voluminous. I would say, and in my experience outside of the town of Silverton, most of these can be handled at either low or no cost and little staff time. But this document will give us the opportunity. Now, I did have one down at Perk Metro District that wanted all emails related to a subject, not even a subject, just between two parties down at 15,000 emails. And so we invited that resident to come in and sit at a computer and sift through all that they wanted if they wanted to, but just the pure volume, they decided that they didn't want to do that. But the documents can be voluminous, especially electronic stuff. And if someone is insistent on, it's their right to make the KORA request, and it's our obligation to provide it. And this gives us some fee structure if we get into something that's really time consuming or voluminous printing, that type of thing.
All right, well, I am okay with this. Oops, is that me? As long as we are within the confines of the Colorado Revised Statute for the KORA Act. So I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Wiegert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that we approve Resolution 2020-09.
I second.
Second. Yeah. Sure.
Thank you, Trustee Wiegert for the motion and Trustee Harper for the second. Kelly, roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Can you, yes,
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Wager,
Yes.
trustee Beerma,
Yes.
trustee Lashley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes, but clarifying that this motion needs to also include the revision to the price to $33.58, I think, instead of $35.
I have made that notation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Does that make us need to do roll call again, or what's the process there?
No, I think we're okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone. First reading of ordinance 2020-09, temporary signage. Ordinance 2020-09, an ordinance amending certain paragraphs of section 16.630 of the Silverton Municipal Code concerning the regulations of temporary signs. Whereas the town of Silverton, Colorado, defined the town, is a statutory town under the laws of the state of Colorado. Whereas pursuant to the authority conferred via CRS section 3123.301, the town is empowered to regulate and restrict the use of building structures and land within its statutory jurisdiction, so long as such restraints are determined necessary to promote the general health, safety, and welfare of the community. Whereas through such authority, the town regulates the use of signs in the town through Article 6 of Chapter 16 of the Silverton Municipal Code, and specifically in Section 16.630, exempts from regulation certain temporary signs. Whereas the town has an interest in regulating signs in order to promote visual harmony and respect for the environmental character of the community, while also enhancing the economy, businesses, and industries by encouraging efficient communication with the public. Whereas the town has a substantial and/or compelling interest in preventing negative impacts associated with temporary signs, which may be degraded, damaged, moved, or destroyed by wind, rain, snow, ice, and sun. And after such degradation, damage, movement, or destruction, such signs harm the safety and aesthetics of the town. Whereas it is the intent of the town to regulate signs in a manner consistent with the First Amendment guarantee of free speech, and it is not the intent of the town to regulate signs based on the content of their messages. Whereas town staff recommends modifying the regulations concerning the use of temporary signs as provided herein. And whereas the Board of Trustees finds and determines that it is in the best interest of the town to modify the regulations concerning the use of temporary signs in order to allow for freedom of speech, provide for the safety of the community, and protect the aesthetics of the town as provided herein. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Trustees of the town of Silverton, Colorado. 1. Amendment 1, Chapter 16, Article 6, Section 30, Subsection 15 is hereby repealed and replaced with the following. 15. Temporary signs. Temporary signs up to an aggregate area of 12 square feet may be displayed for an unlimited amount of time. An aggregate area of up to 48 square feet is allowed 30 days prior to an election. A temporary sign shall not exceed 12 square feet in area or 6 square feet per side if double-sided, and 4 feet in height. Temporary signs include, but are not limited to, for sale, for rent, or for lease signs, directional signs, political signs, and construction site signs. Temporary signs shall not be illuminated. A minimum of 4 feet of sidewalk width clearance shall be available for pedestrian use. 2. Amendment 2. Chapter 16, Article 6, Section 30, subsections 16, 21, and 24 are hereby deleted in their entirety and shall be reserved. 3. Severability clause. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, phrase, or word of the ordinance is for any reason held to be invalid or unconstitutional, its clarity of definition and interpretation of such questions, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portion of this ordinance, and the remainder of this ordinance will remain in force and effect. Definitions contained within this ordinance shall be interpreted and understood as those terms and uses commonly understood within the public realm. 4. Effective date. This ordinance shall take effect and be in force on the 30th day after it has been published. Introduced, approved on first reading, and ordered published once in full on this blank day of blank 2020. Introduced and adopted on second reading on this blank day of blank 2020. And then signature Town of Silverton, Colorado, Shane Furman, Mayor, attested by Kelly Freeze, Town Clerk. Administrator Ryder, do we need to make a motion or is it simply a reading?
You make a motion to approve this first reading and that will send us to the second reading.
Do I hear such a motion? Trustee Barella?
I have concerns going back to the letter that we received a few days ago. Again, and this is in reference to Mark Silverstein, the legal director of the ACLU. Was that given a chance to be reviewed by Mr. Kosnick in reference to this? Because this came out after the packet did. What's highlighted in this was the 12 square feet, the aggregate area up to 48 square feet is only allowed 30 days prior to an election. So do we know if Paul has gotten to see this correspondence yet, Mr. Ryder?
I am going back to see if he and I have talked extensively about this and talked today about it. And he maintains that this gets us, into compliance with US Constitution and freedom of speech. If you'll give me a moment, I'm trying to find the. Yeah, Paul was on this email. And he and I talked today, so I think he believes this, well, I know he believes this ordinance is fine. This is also very similar, if not the same, as to what Durango has in place for their signage ordinance.
It sounds like maybe we should get just a written confirmation from Attorney Kosnick.
Yeah, I think I'd be very comfortable with that if he possibly, or if this other ACLU lawyer, I don't know. I'm just still worried that we are not quite within the parameters. I'd like Mr. Kosnick to, I don't know, potentially weigh in reference to this letter for me to feel comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
is this a situation of conditional approval or are we going for 3 readings on this one?
I'd be okay with conditional approval. I just want to make sure that we are still within the parameters and we are not violating any further based on what our old code was to what the repeal and the replace is.
So would the motion be to conditionally approve this first reading subject to Attorney Kosnick confirming that this is now a constitutionally non-violating resolution or ordinance, and otherwise to revise it to be in line with whatever is needed?
Agreed.
That could have been said better.
I got your point.
Do I hear such a motion?
I've got it down.
Yeah, I'll move with what Shane said that John wrote down. I'm just having such an issue here getting everything to work.
Thank you, Trustee Barella. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Lashley. Kelly, roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Weigert,
Yes.
trustee Beerma,
Yes.
trustee Lashley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. All right, thank you, everyone. Moving along to consideration to approve purchase terms for the snow groomer.
And so I apologize, what we're asking for here is not necessarily final approval, but we are getting into a negotiation with Prineth that's going to move perhaps faster than our budget approval. As you'll recall from the work session, we had put in financing terms for the purchase of Jim Loki's snow groomer and a trade-in of our existing. I've received final terms from Prineth, which is a fair market value of the Loki groomer that we'd like to purchase at $66,000, trade-in value of our unit at, I'm sorry, that's a Bison snow groomer that Jim Loki's trading in. A fair market value of our existing Prineth at 13.5 for a total financing of $53,000. These terms actually just came in today. We are going to finance it through a firm commitment through the Bank of San Juan's for 7 years at 4%. That's a $725 to $750 monthly payment. We have $1,000 put into the budget, so it would be less than what we originally budgeted. So we were just looking for general board approval, if you will, to proceed with this deal. We still have work to do. I need Paul to look at the sales agreement, final inspections on the machines, and then final loan documents with the bank. But just wanted to check in and make sure we're still okay to go forward with this, because there is some getting it down from Moelis, Jim Loki's, and getting ours traded in work that has to be done that will kind of be before the budget is finally approved, and wanted to keep working toward this deal with your approval.
Thank you. Trustee Barella.
Once again, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote because my husband and I are the secretary and treasurer of the Silverton Snowmobile Club, which is actually where this is being purchased from. But it is an excellent piece of equipment. I have all the documents needed for any sort of maintenance and upkeep on it. This is an excellent, I don't know, switch, I guess I'd say, because of the other one was having a lot of issues, the town's groomer currently, and this is a lot newer model. So I think this is a wonderful thing. That's all I'm going to say, because I will recuse from the vote. Thank you.
I should point out that there's no prepayment penalty to pay this loan off, so it will fit into our Tabor Gallagher rules as far as long-term debt. We'll check in each year as part of the budget process to see if by chance we want to purchase the groomer outright, but just part of the financing terms also is that there's no prepayment penalty should we decide to purchase it for whatever reason.
Trustee Lashley.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The groomer that we currently have was recommended to be purchased from us because we had local expertise on how to fix it when things went wrong. So inheriting something from somebody who's a big part of our community and really supportive of these grooming efforts and also has a lot of experience with it, I think will save us a lot of headache in the future by having somebody who has the experience with this machine. And I hope that Jim Loki has offered a little bit of assistance to us in diagnosing and troubleshooting this, and I'm sure he doesn't want to come fix our snowcats, but if he could give us a hand with that makes the decision easier for me to have that kind of local experience and knowledge regarding a piece of equipment like this, because snowcats can get expensive very quickly with all the hydraulics and everything that goes on with them, and diagnosing is not an easy thing.
Yeah, no, Jim's been a great partner in all of this, and if I'm not mistaken, he's lent a hand with our old Prineth, when we couldn't figure it out.
My understanding is that kind of the timing of this is pretty similar to the Caterpillar equipment purchase last year, where the board approved the purchase of something significant while the budget was still in draft form. So this is still very much in line with precedent in terms of timing.
That is correct.
And also John Seitz and you both strongly recommend.
Strongly recommend. Yeah. As Trustee
Awesome.
Barilla said, this is a pretty good situation for us.
Thank you. Any further discussion, or do I hear a motion? Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
I can make a motion. I was gonna express support for the timing in our budget. I understand what John and John's need right now, and I support it. And I can
Thank you.
make a motion if we need that too.
Trustee Birma does it. If you
Yeah.
want to weigh in real quick.
I was just gonna clarify. I'm assuming this is kind of the same as previous, where it's like a conditional approval based on everything going through and staying under the proposed amount we're paying.
Yep. If anything were to significantly change it, well, to change it all in this deal, and we'll probably bring, the final contract back to you in a couple of weeks, for final approval. We have to have it looked at by the attorney just to make sure we don't have any provisions here that could put us in a Tabor violation, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, we'll have some more review to this and come back with a final approval, but this allows us to keep the deal going.
So do I hear a motion?
Okay, so I'd make a motion to approve the continuation of the financing and the negotiations and the transferring of groomers from place to place. Is that all we need to say?
I think so. And I would just say a condition on that no significant terms change either in the sales agreement or the financing. And it
Yeah,
passes,
right.
it passes Attorney Kosnick's review.
On that condition.
I can second that.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Barney, for the motion and Trustee Birma for the second. Kelly, roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Recuse.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Waggart,
Yes.
trustee Birma,
Yes.
trustee Lashley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Any other discussion topics before moving to public comment? Wonderful. At this time, we'll move to public comment. Any of our attendees on Zoom, if you'd like to speak, please click the raise hand button on your screen. Seeing none, I look forward to seeing you all on October 26th for our next regular board meeting. And I adjourn this meeting. Thank you all. Have a good night.